Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. We have a huge docket for you today on this Monday, February 21st, 2022. So let's see what we've got to talk about. First, the jury will get the case in both the George Floyd officer matters as well as the Ahmaud Arbery killer's case starting tomorrow. Is this a tinfoil hat conspiracy stuff, or just a unusual coincidence? Third, an example of how crazy life has become. You have to pass laws to say it's okay for your children to play outside and it's not child abuse. That's right. A Mother of the Year contestant, another Tinder swindler. When you hear this, you'll sign up for CrimeTalkSearch.com. How do you know if someone has anger issues? Let me present Exhibit A. Examples of creepy people everywhere. Okay, this is one of the worst cases that we've talked about thus far this year. And then finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. It's Monday, February 21st, 2022. Before we get to the good stuff, that's right, the docket, need you to do a couple of things. First, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Hit that like button if you like the video. Always leave me a comment. And remember, you can download us on your favorite podcasting app anywhere. Just type in Crime Talk with Scott Reich. All right, let's get to the docket. Well, late last week, Thomas Lane, one of the three former police officers on trial charged with violating George Floyd's civil rights, testified Friday morning and began outlining the job he had before moving towards a career in law enforcement. The now former officer Lane said one of his previous jobs was working at the Hennepin County Juvenile Detention Center, but that he wanted to instead work with people before they got into the jail system. He decided to pursue a job with the Minneapolis Police Department, where his father, grandfather, great-grandfather all worked. Now, as you may recall, Lane, Tao, and Koenig are accused of depriving George Floyd of his rights to medical care. Koenig and Tao are also charged with failing to intervene to stop Derek Chauvin from kneeling on George Floyd and ultimately killing him. Koenig and Tao testified earlier in the week. Koenig said he deferred to Chauvin as the senior officer on the scene. Tao said he was relying on the other three officers to care for Floyd's medical needs while he controlled the crowd and traffic. And then Lane's testimony basically outlined also witnesses who knew Lane before he became a police officer. Minneapolis Police Sergeant Adam Lipinski said he met Lane when he worked security at a bar. Lipinski said he encouraged Lane to join the police force. He also said he was very calm and that he maintained his composure in stressful situations. He stated that he dealt with individuals with respect and dignity. Lane's brother, James, testified his brother has always been a peacemaker and the compassionate one, clearly putting on some good character evidence. Kind of tough for the prosecutors to get up and beat up on family members saying they're a good guy, other than, of course, the reasons why they are there. Now, the defense attorneys for the three former officers has gone after the police department's training, saying that it was inadequate. Koenig testified last week that both he and Lane were both rookies with just a few days working without a trainer, and that Koenig testified previously that he feared he could be fired for disobeying a superior. And of course, that superior was now former police officer Derek Chauvin. Well, it only took a week, but guess what? A federal jury heard closing arguments Friday in the trial against Ahmaud Arbery's convicted killers, Travis McMichaels, Gregory McMichaels, and William Roddy Bryan. The trial, which began, like I said, just a week ago, will determine if the trio committed their crimes because of Arbery's race. I'm thinking they're going to. Now, the Department of Justice attorney Christopher Perez said this wasn't about trespassing. It was about neighborhood crime. It was about race, racial assumptions, racial resentment, and racial anger. Now, since the trial began, the jury had heard multiple instances of racism coming from the convicted killers. Gunman Travis McMichael was quoted saying at his workplace once that 0 N-words work for me. And after the death of civil rights luminary Julian Bond, Greg McMichaels is also quoted saying all those blacks are nothing but trouble. I wish they would all die. The examples went on and on during the course of the federal trial. For them, Paris said, the benefit was the opportunity to live out a macho vigilante fantasy and act like the heroes of the neighborhood. The evidence showed that the McMichaels weren't actually tough guys, but they wanted to be thought of themselves as tough guys, according to the prosecutors. The prosecutor further described the trio as wannabe tough guys. The prosecution wrapped up just before 11 a.m. on Friday. The defense finished their summation later Friday afternoon. Obviously, we'll give everybody the presumption of innocence. Obviously, Mr. Bryan and the McMichaels have all been convicted of murder, so the presumption of innocence has gone away with that. But until the jury comes back, we got to give them the presumption of innocence. But I think the jury's going to be pretty well convinced that these guys were not some sort of good guys protecting the neighborhood, but in fact, they're going to come back as convicted racist individuals who deprived Ahmaud Arbery of his constitutional rights. Do I need to put on a tinfoil hat for this, or is this just a little too weird of a coincidence? Okay? Not a big conspiracy theorist. However, having done this job for as long as I have as a criminal defense attorney, sometimes you just realize that wasn't a coincidence. And so one has to wonder, Jean-Luc Brunel, a French modeling agent who was close friends with that guy named Jeff, and Ghislaine Maxwell, was found, get this, hanged in his jail cell early Saturday morning. Coincidence? The manner of death is, of course, eerily similar to the man named Jeff, who was found hanged in his cell back in 2019. Brunel's lawyer released a statement shortly after he was discovered, saying that his decision was not guided by guilt, but by a deep sense of injustice. Brunel became a giant in the modeling industry due to his ability to scout supermodels, most notably Chris Turrington and Mia Djokovic. In 2004, Brunel opened a show in Miami called MC2 Modeling Agency. The man named Jeff reportedly invested $1 million to launch the agency. Virginia Giuffre, or Virginia Roberts, claimed that the man named Jeff tracked her to Brunel when she was a minor, and also alleged that the agency was used by the two men to traffic underage girls into the country. French officials arrested Brunel in December of 2020 for the alleged sexual assaults of a minor over the age of 15. Paris prosecutors released a statement after the arrest, saying that Brunel is alleged to have committed these crimes in connection with or on behalf of that man named Jeff. Now, Brunel and that man named Jeff fell out after the man named Jeff served time behind bars as part of his sweetheart plea deal in Florida's prosecution back in 2008. Brunel would later file a lawsuit against that guy named Jeff, alleging that Jeff notoriety caused his modeling agency to fail, and that man named Jeff managed to evade service of that lawsuit for years. But the case finally started moving forward in 2019, just as that man named Jeff found himself back behind bars. Now, after that guy named Jeff died in his own prison cell, Brunel ultimately moved to dismiss the lawsuit with prejudice. Brunel was also a key player in the ongoing civil case against that guy named Jeff's estate in the Virgin Islands. Prosecutors had served him and his modeling agency with subpoenas in the case. Now, let's talk about this really quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Man named Jeff dies in his jail cell when the cameras just happened to go off. And now this Brunel guy winds up dead by hanging himself. And guess what happened? That's right. The cameras just happened to be off. Like I said, I don't think I should be adjusting my tinfoil hat here, but it really makes you go, just saying. Let me know what you think. Just a coincidence or something more nefarious? Let me know in the comments below. Next on the docket, this is how bad it has become across the country. A little story about a bill making its way through the Colorado legislature. This is just crazy, ladies and gentlemen. There's now a bipartisan measure sailing through the Colorado State Capitol that would clarify what isn't child abuse for children to play outside or stay home without parents. Now, 7-year-old Brinley Sheffield and her mom, Krista Sheffield, created a route around their neighborhood together so the child could practice jogging. Her parents had no concern that Brinley would get lost since they practiced the run several times and they had her eyes on her about half of the route. What they didn't consider was that someone may call the police. That's right. Lawmakers from both parties are wholeheartedly backing the proposal to clarify Colorado's child abuse laws, even while expressing bewilderment that Colorado needs to specifically state that it's not illegal for kids to play outside by themselves, or to go to the park, or ride their bikes to school. I regret that we have to make this law, says Representative Mary Bradfield from Colorado Springs. There is a portion of our society that is pretty uptight and can't allow kids to be kids. And so the House Bill 1090 passed 13-0 out of the House Human Services Committee and passed its first full vote in the full House on Thursday of last week. A spokesperson for the Colorado Department of Human Services said it affirms that age-appropriate childhood activity, such as traveling to and from school, playing outside, or staying at home alone, are not considered maltreatment, according to the Colorado law and practice, if a prudent parent would consider these activities safe. As parents, we've grown more fearful of the kidnapping and other crimes. They've restricted kids' freedom. Now, Mr. Sheffield said that in an interview. Another mom told lawmakers that parents who homeschool their children are sometimes the subject of child abuse hotline or police calls because their kids are playing outside during school hours. Once a family is in the system, they are guilty until proven innocent. The very opposite of the judicial system. Can't disagree with that. You don't want to be in the Department of Human Services system. You have to jump through hoops backwards with bells on to get those people out of your life. So the point of this bill is mainly to make a statement. No need to assume young kids playing outside, walking to school, or staying home alone are neglected. Doesn't that make you feel just a little better? It just shows you how uptight we have become. When I grew up, my parents basically said, and in the summertime, get up, get out, be home for lunch, be home for dinner, be home before dark, but you're not going to be sitting around the house, sitting on the couch watching TV, eating potato chips. So it just shows you where the world has become. Now we have to pass laws to say what is not a crime, because apparently the people that get these crimes reported to them cannot exercise enough common sense and judgment that they actually have to be told by statute that it's okay for your kid to play outside, ride their bike to school, and God forbid, run around the block. Yes, there are terrible people in the world. However, this does not mean that everyone is going to be the subject of terrible things happening to them. Next on the docket, Mother of the Year. You don't need a statute saying this is wrong. Mother of the Year, Heather Nicole Atkins, she's 32, was arrested and charged late Friday for allegedly abandoning her 5-year-old autistic son. Now, according to the police records, Atkins was taken into custody after her son was found wandering in Ohio. The boy was described as nonverbal and was picked up by police after motorists saw him wandering alone. It was determined that the little boy was from Shelbyville, Indiana, which is about 75 miles north, and was abandoned for at least a few hours before police picked him up. Atkins was arrested at a gas station in Georgetown, Kentucky, about 80 miles south where the boy was found. Now, while being questioned, she said she was from Shelbyville and had 3 children, including one with autism, claiming that all 3 were safe with friends. She also claimed to have received treatment for meth and heroin addiction at a Georgetown hospital earlier on Sunday. A warrant issued for her arrest in Coleraine Township, and booking records indicate that Atkins was taken to the Scott County Jail for failure to pay a charge back in 2011. Georgetown Assistant Police Chief Darren Alwood said that until the warrant is made active, she could possibly leave. It depends on what the conditions are of the warrant and whether she's in jail right now. If it's pay a fine, she could leave, and if she pays the fine, yes, maybe she'll be able to leave. Just depends on the stipulations. So we'll see. I think that's pretty clear. You don't need a law clarifying that if you're going to have somebody watch your children, you should probably know where they're going to be or at least trust them so they're not 80 miles away from where you are if they're not supposed to be with somebody that you trust. Who knows? Maybe Colorado will have to pass that law too. All right, next on Crime Talk. This is another example of a Tinder swindler. And after you hear this, you'll want to sign up for CrimeTalkSearch.com. Why do you need CrimeTalkSearch.com? Well, because you basically can't trust anyone these days, and doing a quick Google search is not going to reveal the information that you're going to find in CrimeTalkSearch.com, which includes background records, divorce records, property records, sex offender registration records. Go to CrimeTalkSearch.com. All right, listen to this. A 78-year-old Virginia man with dementia was looking for love on a dating app and was scammed out of $600,000 after falling victim to a couple of online con artists. Ironically, the man, who is unidentified, worked his entire life investigating fraud for the government, but fell victim to an age-old con. The man created an account on an app called iFlirt in an effort to find some companionship and found someone who said they were a widow and seemed interested. The woman sent photos of herself, and the scam grew. She also said she was from New York, but was arrested in Germany trying to retrieve an inheritance of gold bars and needed money to make bail. The old man paid for it, and shortly after, the woman reached out asking for more money, saying she'd been arrested again. He told the scammers he was depressed and that he was considering suicide, but the scammers continued to coerce him into sending more money. They even were able to convince the man to use his money from his IRA. The man reportedly sent $400,000 in cash and $200,000 in Apple products to a woman who claimed she was a 30-year-old widow in prison. The man sent 53 packages of Apple products, which were used to raise money to free the woman from jail. Well, on Friday, the two people who scammed the old man were sentenced in a federal court in Alexandria. Ghanese nationals Linda McDong and Richard Brony played relatively minor roles in the scam. Prosecutors described them more as money mules who never made contact with the victim themselves, but helped receive and launder the money in return for 5 or 10% cuts of the proceeds. The scammers, who are romantically involved themselves, worked with several others to carry out the scam. In the end, Mibigon was jailed for 36 months, while Brony was given a 19-month sentence. The female agreed to pay $1.3 million to the victim, and Brony will pay $87,000. The old man's son said the scammers took advantage of an elderly man with declining physical and mental health, showing no remorse in trying to extract the maximum possible from him at every turn. Now remember, romance scams reached a record high in 2021, increased by nearly 80% during 2020, according to the Federal Trade Commission. In the past 5 years, victims have lost more than $1.3 billion in such a scam. So, I get it. Everybody's looking for love in all the wrong places. Be careful out there. And if you don't do a background search, and I'm not talking a quick Google search, you need to go somewhere like a CrimeTalkSearch.com or hire a private investigator. And generally, if somebody, first thing they want from you is money, run. Run like a hotel fire, ladies and gentlemen. Run. It's a scam. Okay, how about some more love stories today? How about a Florida woman? Okay, this is our example of how do you know someone has anger issues? Exhibit A. A 61-year-old woman from Florida was arrested and charged with first-degree murder for stabbing her disabled husband not once, not twice, but 140 times. The woman, Joan Burke, also allegedly bludgeoned her 62-year-old husband, Melvin Weller, to death with a meat cleaver inside their home in Palm Springs, Florida on February 11th. Their son, Ricardo Green, 41, returned from work and said his stepfather was lying in a pool of blood in the kitchen and called 911. Burke was found lying in the bed in the master bedroom and was taken to the hospital for evaluation. Now, Burke was booked into the Palm Springs Main Detention Center on Saturday. She was a licensed nursing assistant until 2019. She appeared on video at her court appearance and was denied bail. An autopsy of Weller revealed that he had been stabbed 140 times all over his body and had a skull fracture. Police said they found lacerations on Burke's hands, which is indication of defensive wounds. A cousin of Weller posted on Facebook saying, "I can't imagine how hard it was for you during your final hours on earth. Still in disbelief, may God comfort the entire family. Ladies and gentlemen, that is some serious hate and discontent, okay? Stabbing. It's kind of like strangling. It's very personal. It's not like somebody does something bad with a gun. That's personal. And 140 times, that's just hate. That's the epitome of after deliberation. But in today's world, I'm sure they'll file a notice of NGRI, not guilty by reason of insanity. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, we'll give the mad stabber the presumption of innocence. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this one is got to be one of the creepiest stories that we've at least handled this far. As I recall, we had a story about this back in, I think it was Mississippi last year. Very similar. Once you hear the facts, you'll say, oh my gosh, yep, this is one of the worst stories of the year. This person has little to no redeeming qualities whatsoever, and maybe the state of Michigan will do the honorable thing. Anyway, let's see what happens. A Michigan man has been charged with intentionally hitting and killing a 64-year-old woman with his truck so that he could engage in sexual relations with her deceased body. Melody Rower, a retired nurse, was seen walking along County Road 215 in Hamilton Township, Michigan on September 20th of 2021. Her husband reported her missing when she didn't come home that day. Investigators were able to quickly narrow the search down and zeroed in on Colby Martin, 29. They tracked down Rower's phone and found Martin with it, which led them to her body. Martin had moved her body into a wooded area in a neighboring county. Martin was initially charged with manslaughter with an automobile, failure to stop at the scene of a crash, and concealing a body. But the investigation uncovered some weird facts that led them to bring murder charges this month. Detectives say they found condoms inside Martin's truck and in a trash can near his home were Rower's DNA on them. Martin also had recent cell phone history searches for disturbing pornography, categories including dead or unconscious women. Martin had been released on an earlier charges of $300,000 bond, but when these charges were filed for murder, he was now denied bond, and rightfully so. We'll give him the presumption of innocence, but that's just weird and creepy. Hats off to the police for doing a very fine investigative job. And just another reason why you got to be careful out there, ladies and gentlemen. There are creepers everywhere. All right, before we get to our dumb criminal of the day, let's do our winner from last week. Chelsea Alston was told she was too drunk to board a plane in Orlando and tried fleeing on her motorized suitcase, causing a low-speed chase around the airport. Congratulations. Congratulations, Chelsea. You've earned it. You are a dumb criminal winner of the week. Telling you, ladies and gentlemen, you can't make this stuff up. And today, police responded to a call about a man pulling on a car door handle in a parking lot in Monroe, Louisiana. Witnesses reported seeing the man actually getting into a 1994 Chevrolet truck. An officer spotted a 22-year-old Christopher Samuel and asked him why he got into the truck. Samuel reported that he was sleepwalking. Samuel was arrested and booked into the local jail on felony burglary charges. Now, according to the court filing, Samuel had reportedly said he was sleepwalking, but records show his home address was some 3 miles away from where he was apprehended and arrested. That's some serious sleepwalking there, Samuel. Nice try. Maybe you've been watching CrimeTalk when we started talking about they have to prove that was what was in your mind. Nice try. We'll continue to try to follow this case to see if the I was sleepwalking defense works. I think it's going to work about as good as those aren't my pants defense. Yeah, then that never works. All right. Hey, thanks for watching. I know it was a big docket today. Please join us tomorrow. And do not forget, tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Mountain Time is our live show after dark. 6 p.m. Mountain Time. We'll see you then. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk.